Hello and welcome everyone. Wrecked by Protoss here again with another build video highlight. This time we're gonna take a look at Aether Spin to Win Oppressor. Let's get into the game and talk about the build. Right, so this is the Praise the Sun build. As you can see, this is a build playing around Eye of Reckoning, Aether Eye of Reckoning, and for that we're using this helm to enable the build, basically, and some other gear which I will talk about later. So let's start off with the skill point allocation, right? So our main ability obviously is the Eye of Reckoning in Oathkeeper. So we are trying to hard max this out as high as possible. And the same for Soulfire as well. This also reduces enemy damage. And like some of its lightning and physical damage gets converted to Aether as well. And this one obviously has full conversion on the physical to Aether and like partial conversion for the fire to Aether as well. Other skills in the Oathkeeper class are, as always for all Oathkeepers, the Presence of Virtue passive, or like Aura. This one is hard capped. You could also just put 12 here and like put the 3 points somewhere else, but I think on this build I didn't have like any other skill I wanted to use, so yeah, this is just 15 out of 12. Haven up to 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 gives you like pretty good percent HP. And then like 1 point into Rebuke. I think there's actually only 1 point as well for this build because we have like +4 to like +3 to Oathkeeper and then like random +1 and +1 here, I guess. I mean, the physical damage that we get here will be added to Eye of Reckoning as well, and then also converted to Aether. So it's not that bad to have like an additional point here. We have Resilience on 14 out of 12. So for Resilience, you either put this on 5 out of 12, or 11 out of 12, or 14 out of 12. 14 out of 12 gives me 13% TA, 13% Phys and plus 6% max auras. So that's a pretty good breaking point for this ability. I would never put this above 14 at all, so 14 is like the max. You should never put more than 14 points here. Then Ascension. I mean, this is obviously the best defensive spell Oathkeeper has, like, or like not only defense but also gives you more damage, right? So it's like a very good overall buff for your character. And we try to put as many points as possible here, so like our personal hard cap is here at 17 out of 12. And then there's also Clarity of Purpose, which makes Ascension give us a shit ton of OA and like a CC reduction basically. And this is best at 12 out of 12, so at the soft cap, because like the additional points beyond that don't really give you anything. Like it's only like 1% CC resistance, which is like not that great for a point. So yeah, you should never overcap this in my opinion. And then the last and final skill we're using here is the Judgment spell. This is like a 1 pointer here, then we hard cap this and 1 point here. Now we're just using this as a AoE DA debuff, basically. So this will debuff the enemy DA by 263, effectively increasing our chance to crit by a lot. And then also we have 1 point into Virus Might and Tectonic Shift just for movement. This is just for like moving around. We don't need the fire part here, like it's whatever. And then this one is just to extend the range by 3 meters. Alright, that's gonna be it for the Oathkeeper. Let's go over to the Necromancer. So for the Necromancer, we actually don't use that many spells because, I mean, for an Aether build, you want to have Spectral Binding and Spectral Wrath, obviously. This gives you like a lot of HP, percent Aether damage, flat Aether damage, and flat OA. So this one is a great spell for Aether builds, especially for like weapon damage based Aether builds like this one. And then Spectral Wrath is, well, the Aether resistance reduction that we are looking for in Necromancer here. This gives us minus 42% Aether resistance reduction to enemies whenever we get hit. And since we're in melee build anyways, this basically will proc for every enemy that we fight. Then Mark of Torment is, well, the damage absorption ability of Necromancer. And that's very good. It should be used on pretty much any Necromancer as well, in the endgame at least. Like, while leveling is not that good. And then the best value for this point is, or like for this skill, is to have it at 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 gives you 46% absorption for 4.6 seconds duration and has 18.3 seconds skill recharge. And like any additional points after this only give you like 0.1 duration and 1% more absorption, while the ones before this one gives you like 0.3 seconds and like 3% absorption, something like that. So yeah, 6 out of 10 is like the breaking point here, and you don't really want to put more points here unless you have like a lot of free points. Then our active, or like, I mean, not active, but how do you say, exclusive ability, exclusive aura, in this case is Harbinger of Souls. We're using this to get the lifesteal and the attack speed. We don't really care about the physical to vitality damage conversion. I mean, that's, if anything, that would be bad for us, but since we have 100% physical to Aether on this anyways, and like skill modifiers come before global conversion, this doesn't like impact our build negatively. So we will still have 100% Aether damage for our Eye of Reckoning. And yeah, this basically gives us attack speed and lifesteal. And we're not putting 12 here because the 12th point actually doesn't increase attack speed, nor does it increase lifesteal. So 11 out of 12 is where this is at, and it also gives us a little bit of percent Aether damage, right? So that's also nice to have. You could maybe go for the Divine Mandate instead, if you would prefer to get crit damage and slow resistance instead. But since we didn't have maxed out attack speed, I went with the other one. And also lifesteal is very good, and like lifesteal is very, very good with Eye of Reckoning because it works so smoothly. Because you tick so fast that you don't really have any spikes in lifesteal as with that you have like with default attackers or two-handers especially. It's very smooth. And then the last ability here is the Siphon Souls ability. I mean, we are using this mostly because of the OA debuff, so this will debuff enemy OA, effectively giving us more DA and thus having a less chance to be hit by enemies. And also to not be crit. I mean, we're not getting crit by anything anyways at this build. And then we're using obviously the Seer Souls transmitter here, which increases the duration, which also increases the duration of the debuff. And also converts the damage to Aether damage, so we're actually scaling this damage. And also this heals us a bit, which is nice, but we don't really care about that too much. I mean, Eye of Reckoning with a lot of lifesteal should heal us more than enough anyways. Anyways, let's move on to the devotions. So for devotions, obviously the Widow or like the Arcane Bomb is like a must-have for any Aether build. And then because we're like a melee Aether build, also Spear is very good. Spear of the Heavens. This gives us like a bunch of OA and Aether multipliers. And now we have like the option to put one spammable skill on our Eye of Reckoning, right? And for that I chose Aether Fire. Because Aether Fire is right now I believe like the only skill that has like 0 cooldown whatsoever, at least from the tier 1 abilities, right? Fiend has a cooldown now, this has a cooldown. So Aether Fire is very good for, I would say it's very good for Aether Ray builds. And it's also very good for Eye of Reckoning because this ticks so fast, right? So Aether Fire is gonna spread all the time, everywhere around you. And that's actually a nice damage increase as well, and also we're converting some of the fire to Aether on top. So yeah, this is doing some work for us, and this is like the one active ability that we really have. All the others are like passive. And also obviously we have Arcane Bomb, and we proc this with the like Dark Desires rune, which is basically like a Shadow Strike. So whenever we engage, this will activate. I mean, it has an 85% chance to activate, so it's mostly active all the time. So whenever we start engaging, the bomb will drop under the enemy, and it will go away, like blow up and go off. And yeah, so we have the resistance reduction as soon as possible, basically. Other than that, I mean, to get Spear of Heavens, you need 20 blues and 7 rounds, and for this you need 6 greens and 4 blues, right? So for the 6 greens, we get 3 from the Imp here, and then we get 3 from Lotus. I didn't go for anything down here like Quill or Hawk, because I need the yellow anyways to get like more defensive devotions on top, because this is hardcore, and Eye of Reckoning is in the middle of everything all the time, right? So you want to be tanky as well as dealing damage. And yeah, we don't need any purple whatsoever for this build. So this is how you get the 6 greens. Then also you need 7 reds, right? For 7 reds I went for Ghoul for the lifesteal and also the circuit breaker, the also physical resistance on the circuit breaker. This is just a very good circuit breaker still for all builds that have either weapon damage skills or that use default attacks as their like main ability. And in this case, Earth Reckoning obviously has a weapon damage, so this is very good for that. And then Jackal gives us total speed 6%, this is great, and some physical resistance here as well. So this is a great tier 1 devotion for red devotion as well. For red affinity, I mean. And then 1 point here into Crossroads, and that's how I get my 7 reds. And then I can use the Spear of Heavens for the reds with these red devotions, affinities, I mean. And now we need 20 blues for this as well, right? So for blues, I'm using Sailor's Guide. Sailor's Guide is probably the best blue tier 1 devotion on the game. It'll have like 8% movement speed on those, 3% physical resistance on those, along with some cold and lightning. And slow and freeze resistance as well. Like especially the slow resistance is very good for this build. And yeah, just solid overall. Now, another super good blue devotion, right, is the Watcher. And for this you need 10 blues. I mean, we need 20 for this anyway, so this is kind of free to use anyways. We get 3 more blues here from Widow and 3 more blues from Imp. So that's already 11. So with these 11, you could go for the Watcher. This is still like the best defensive devotion for like any build in my opinion, because it's only a tier 2, it's not too hard to get to. Like many builds need 10 blues anyways. This gives you like a lot of physique, a lot of DA, pierce resistance, which is a good resistance to have, 80 armor. Yeah, this is just great for defensive ability and pierce resistance and armor for the most part. And yeah, how do we fill our 20 blues? And we also have like 4 yellows as well, so you could just go for Panther and Stag. Instead of Stag, you could also use Scarab. I think I use Stag here for the pierce resistance, but if you don't need the pierce resistance, you could go for Scarab instead. And yeah, so Stag is just a little bit defensive stuff. The physical damage, which gets converted to Aether actually, the flat physical damage on this at least. Yeah, some movement speed here as well is not bad. And then Panther is obviously for offensive ability and like some Cunning Spirit. And some crit damage as well, actually. And now these like 20 blues that I have for Spear anyways, and also 8 yellows, allow me to choose these very defensive tier 3 devotions. So I'm putting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points into Obelisk actually. The other 3 points are super good for defensive ability and flat armor. As you can see here, 150 armor, 30 DA, and then like 5% more DA, 25 flat DA. Now this one is useless for me, obviously we don't use a shield. But then this node is so good, like increases armor absorption by 18%, effectively like opening up options for components much more. And then also we have reduced stun and freeze duration, which is great as well. And plus 3 max pierce res, I mean that's not bad, but it's like not that important to be honest. And also since, well, we have the affinity, we can take points here for free as well, like we have 3 more points left, using this to get elemental resistance, more DA and damage to Chthonics. This is racial damage, and racial damage is also as multiplicative, so this will multiply all of your damage by 10% against Chthonics, that's basically a 10% damage increase, and then 6% HP, because why not? I mean, you could alternatively get points here into Targo, like these 3 points would be an alternative. Get if you need like more Chaos and Aether resistance. But I went with this because I believe it's a little bit better. Now onto the gear. For gear, obviously this is our build enabler, the Soul Layer Sam. This is mandatory. So this converts 100% of your physical damage to Aether. And then after that, it also, on top of that, it also converts 24% elemental to Aether, so it converts some of the fire to Aether. This is actually a low roll, I believe, or like a little bit below the average roll. You can get like 30% elemental to Aether here, that would be better, but I didn't bother crafting too many of these. I didn't have too many mats, so maybe you have more mats and can make more use of this. And then the Mythical Dreadfire converts 50% fire to Aether. This actually happens after the elemental conversion, so it's not really a 74% conversion here, it's a little bit less. That said, it's still super good, and also this one since the last patch, this one has, or well, like since 1.1.2 at least, this one has attack speed on top. So this is really good for Eye of Reckoning builds now. 24% attack speed, 284% Aether damage and so on. This is just a very good weapon for Aether Eye of Reckoning now. And you could probably actually also dual wield these if you really want to. But I chose to go for a Mind Warp instead. Like Mind Warp is still super good for any kind of Aether build. And it also has like the flat resistance reduction and percent resistance reduction actually. Like 20% chance of that. And also good attack speed. Some flat Aether damage. And that converts more physical to Aether, which you don't really need because we have 100% conversion physical to Aether anyways by Solar Sun. So yeah, I mean if you don't like Mind Warp, you could go double Red Fire, but I think Mind Warp is just too strong in general. Then I use the Krieg set, 3-piece. This is obviously that's pretty easy to get. You just have to farm Krieg, or like the mobs that drop the Krieg set, right? Which you can do in Elite or Ultimate. And yeah, using the 3-piece bonus here for 6% HP, 6% OA, physical Aether damage, etc. The grips are like the best here. They give me flat Aether damage, attack speed, Krieg's Fury, proc. So this is like the best part out of the set here. And I'm using the chest basically just for the 6% OA and HP from the 3-piece set bonus. And the boots for, well, basically the same reason, and they're not bad. They're okay. Now, another problem I had with this build is how do I max out Eye of Reckoning, right? And for that I had to use some weird items like a Gothian Sigil. This maybe seems a little bit weird at first, but it's actually not that bad. And the burst of speed proc's also not that bad, like you get more total speed, you basically cap out your attack speed at all times, and also we have the formidable Valderan's Shoulder Guard of Vitality. This, I mean, this is a pretty good roll because it gives me physical resistance and a bunch of HP. But honestly, you can just use the base of this just for +3 Eye of Reckoning and it will be good enough. And then I'm using these boots for like +3 Spectral Wrath as well, basically increasing my Aether resistance reduction. And Maven's Wit giving me like some resistances as well. Mystic is kinda bad. Mystic gives you percent spirit only. Energy regen is kinda welcome though on a Eye of Reckoning build, so it's not completely terrible. You can go for another pair of boots here. You can just use Barbaros pants instead, for example, if you want to. They will be just as good, probably. Using the Serenity Relic here, +1 all skills and like the defensive proc. Pretty good overall, and also like the Aether and Chaos resistance is actually huge on a relic. Now this seems a little bit weird here, the Crimson Lotus. I'm actually using this just for the +1 skills to Oathkeeper and like the resistances, and there was like another belt that you could use for that as well, the Avenger belt, right? But Crimson Lotus has like better resistances for this build compared to the Avenger belt, so I was using this one on this build, but you can use a different belt here if you want to. Yeah, basically using this just to hard cap Eye of Reckoning as well. Korvac's Brand, this is the metal that allows us to dual wield the melee weapons, and also gives me +2 to Soulfire and like a bunch of resistances and attack speed actually as well, and offensive ability. So yeah, overall this is a pretty good one. Not complaining, this is a very solid metal for this build, even though it gives me no Aether damage, but we don't really need it from like any, or like every single piece of gear. Onto the rings, as I said, like Bergothian Sigil for maxing out Eye of Reckoning, and then the Band of Eternal Haunt, because this one has a proc that reduces enemy Aether resistance, so it's pretty good for like any Aether build, especially if you have like one ring slot free. There's like an alternative, you could use double Mage Lord rings here instead of these two. Mage Lord rings would give you like more conversion, like more elemental to Aether conversion, on top of more flat Aether. But you would lose the +2 Eye of Reckoning here, so to then be able to max out Eye of Reckoning again, you would have to swap around the Chest Guard to like the Dawn Guard. or Dawn Shard actually, Dawn Shard chest I think it's called. And that then would make me lose the 6% HP and 6% OA, right? So you can try the other setup depending on which you like more. I think the setup's a little bit better overall, but I mean, feel free to use whatever you want. And then there's also this amulet here. There is an amulet that converts 100% fire to Aether, to Eye of Reckoning, right? Which basically would mean that you don't need the global conversion from like Mage Lord Rings, Red Fire, and Solar Serum anymore. But I didn't get one with like good resistances for my build so far. So I'm using this one, which is also super good in my opinion. Like this has more Ascension duration, more attack speed to Ascension, which is very nice for Eye of Reckoning, and also flat damage to Ascension, flat Aether damage actually. And yeah, so this is probably the best or like second best conduit for this type of build. And we really needed like Chaos or Pierce resistance on this one, so that's why I went with this one. Basically you need, so ideally you would want the Fire to Aether conversion for Eye of Reckoning together with a resistance that is not Aether resistance, right? Because you have like a bunch of Aether resistance already. But the one and only I got was with Aether resistance, so that one was not usable for me. So yeah, that's why I'm using this one, which I believe is almost as good. So yeah, let's see how the build will look like with all the buffs. You can see OA is a little bit low, but remember we do have Ascension, so whenever I press Ascension, OA will be decent. And like we have 18.9% KHP actually, and we have like some not that many buttons to press actually. Like we have Siphon Souls and Judgment as our AoE abilities, or like AoE debuff abilities. Aether Corruption is from the seal here, which gives me even more Aether resistance reduction. Oh yeah, and the second seal I'm using is the Seal of Resonance actually, because I don't have any stun resistance from any gear whatsoever. I only have 30% from Devotions and then 50% from this. So like without Ascension, my stun resistance is a little bit low, and I mean you could try to craft the conduit with like stun resistance on top, but that would be like even more unrealistic to do, right? Or you could like, I mean I guess you can also swap out creeks, or what you also could do is you could swap out these 3 points here, take them out here, and then put like 1 into purple and get the 15% stun from Empty Throne. Because Chariot is not available for us, because you only have stun reduction from Chariot and Empty Throne, right? And here, obviously. Oh yeah, you could also get Scarab, right? So if you don't need the Pierce resistance, say you roll a conduit with a Pierce resistance, like with Pierce resistance instead of the Chaos one that I got, you could take out the Stag and get the Scarab instead. Like Scarab is probably all around better, because you get bleeding resistance, more armor, and like the stun duration here actually. Yeah, I would probably go for the Scarab instead if I could. So one thing I didn't talk about so far was components and the rune augment here. Right? So for the rune augment, I'm using the Dark Desires Shadow Strike-like ability. The reason I'm using this one is because this one also has reduction to enemy offensive ability, and I don't have this flat type of reduction so far, so this will stack with like the other type of reductions that I have. And I'm using an Arcane Spark here in the middle instead of the usual Tainted Heart, because, I mean, this is an Eye Reckoning build, and I don't really have too many means of, like, regaining energy so far. So, yeah, this is pretty good for, like, giving me a little bit of energy regen, basically. So, yeah, that helps with that. Also, Energy Leech. Not only energy regen, so whenever I'm attacking, I'm leeching energy from my enemies as well on top. Like triple Agdenborg leather for gloves, belt, and pants. These are not anything too special. I mean, having them in the pants here is actually not very common, because usually you want to have like a scaled hide and or ancient armor plate in here to have like better armor and armor absorption. But since I'm using this node over here, the obelisk node here, I think it's fine to not use that here. Because I mean, I kind of need the bleed and poison resistance to be honest. And also it gives me some DA, which is not bad as well. For the boots, I'm using the Mark of Traveler in here for now, because without it, it would be, well, not maxed out movement speed, so it would be kind of a turtle. And also, the slow resistance is kind of good actually. Like, slow resistance is very good for Eye of Reckoning builds as well, because yeah, your attack speed can also not be slowed as much then. So yeah, it's kind of nice to have for now, but I mean, you could use like the leather over here instead, for example. Also, I have the living armor in my shoulders here. I mean, it's just a pretty decent component overall. You know, it gives you a chaos resistance, elemental resistance, and armor absorption. And then we have the Seal of Resonance here in the one hand, and the Seal of Corruption in the other hand. Double blooded crystals in the rings to get armor and bleeding resistance, and the usual Seal of Annihilation and the conduit to give us attack speed, cast speed, spirit, OA and DA, the above to enemies, and also less skill energy cost, which is also great for energy, or like the Eye of Reckoning build. Now for the helm and the chest, I still was using Chains of Oleron here and Sanctified Bone. These are obviously not maybe that ideal. I mean, Sanctified Bone is fine because of the like damage multiplicative ratio damage to undead and chthonics. Also helps me out quite a bit with my vitality resistance, so I think I'm gonna keep this one. But I think I would like to change around my Chains of Oleron to another living armor here, because my elemental resistance is not like overcapped that well, especially fire is pretty low actually. And armor ratings also not at 100% like the absorption, so you kind of want to have 100% absorption. And also like the pierce poison stuff I have in here, I mean we have it because like the augments, because pierce and poison is also kind of bad when it comes to resistances. So yeah, I'm using like pierce, poison, or fire and pierce actually in my augments for my armor. Fire and pierce as well once or twice, because well, fire is pretty bad as well. And for the one-handers, I'm using the Ravager's Eye, which is just insane for HP and DA, especially if you're not using a two-hander. This is very, very good. But I think I'm gonna switch up the living armor here right now. So I switched around the component here to a living armor, and we did lose a little bit of the OA actually, and also like a little bit of entrapment resistance reaction, like resistance. But I mean, we have Ascension for that anyways, kinda, and also this will also increase my elemental resistance by quite a bit, and also my armor absorption. So my fire is overcapped by like 10% more now, 25%, which is a lot better than 50% only. And also my armor absorption is basically at 100% now. So these 2.4k armor, which are not that high anyways, are like 100%. I have like 100% effectiveness now at least. And yeah, I mean, what was it? Trap resistance to take a hit, but I mean, as long as I have Ascension, it's still kind of fine. And I mean, OA did take a small hit as well, actually. But I think overall this changes for the better, and should make this build a little bit more consistent overall. The Sanctified Bone, I do like this component, I'm gonna keep it for now. But feel free to use something else, like, you could use something for like pierce resistance, you could use the Titan plating, right, instead. So there are some options how to tweak this character for your liking. Now for like the skills on my skill bar, I'm using obviously Eye of Reckoning on my right click, move to on my left click, Virus Mind on my S, which is like my defensive movement ability button, then the Tonic of Mending, well, it's just here to like see the cooldown honestly, and for the pots I'm using the hotkeys, use these hotkeys here, these ones, drink energy potion, drink HP potion, so energy potion is for 2 and HP potion on the 1. Then I have the crystals on D, like the Aether clusters. These are very, very good in hardcore. Like, if you're not playing hardcore, you don't need to use them, but if you're playing hardcore, I suggest using these. Then you have the Mark of Torment on 4, Ascension on 3, Courageous Tincture on F for me. I mean, this is like a tincture that you can buy in Homestead, and it's pretty good for defensive ability and armor while you're like fighting tough bosses. I recommend this one again in hardcore. This is like a must-have. If you're not playing hardcore, you don't need to use this. Then there's the Aether Corruption from the Seed of Corruption. Dark Desire is my engage tool basically, and then Judgment and Siphon Soul is my AoE debuffs. So you engage like this, use your debuffs, and then just spin. Like that's kinda... And I mean, yeah, if you wanna check out dummy kill times and like other videos, check out my build compendium and Google Docs for that, and you find all the other links for that. I can take this guy for a small spin here in Agdenburg, and then we can run some other videos from other bosses I did on this guy. I mean, this guy, as basically all of my builds, was able to clear Lokar pretty easily and do all the dungeons, obviously. I think we did Shattered Realm 35 to 36 at least in this guy. You can probably do 50, but probably not that much deeper, because Eye of Reckoning, or like this Eye of Reckoning build at least, is not really that good for like 70s to 76. I wouldn't recommend it in hardcore at least on this build. If you're playing softcore, feel free to take this guy into Shattered Realm 75 to 76 as well. And I believe like the lower Shattered Realm shards got nerfed a bit, so I guess 50 to 51. It's maybe possible now actually for this guy. Alright, let's do a AG run as well. So in the Ancient Grove, you have a couple of bosses that you want to look out for, right? You have 2 crabs, green and red one, the Death Stalker, the cool cat, Slathzar Aether Gaze. Then you have these monsters here in the Trial of Corruption. And obviously Gargabol, the end boss. So you want to make sure to kill all of them if you want to do a complete run. You can see that my energy goes a little bit lower sometimes, and you have to press like an energy potion every now and then. But as long as you can press them and you're not like going out of energy even while pressing them, it's fine. That's what the energy potions are for, right? They're supposed to be used. You will get so many of them anyways in the end game. Doesn't really matter. Always check out this shop and like buy better shells, frozen hearts. Check out the blueprints if you have them yet or not. Check out the rings, check out not being killed by the crabs here. And maybe you're lucky and get like a good ring. Salvat of Prowess, obviously not the best, but maybe it's helpful for your build, you know, if you need some DA. You can check out the other weapons as well. Get like a Alacrity one of these, for example. There's some useful stuff this guy sells you. But if you're like kind of a new player, the most helpful part for you is probably gonna be his recipes. So let's check if the kit is here. The kitty. It's not. Right. So we go and kill Slathzar Aether Gaze. Now for most midi builds this guy is a little bit scary, right? Because he fumbles you all the time. But since we're using a spell basically, like Eye of Reckoning is coded as a spell, it cannot fumble and thus will you got consistent damage all the time. Easy clap. This guy drops less one. Slothzar's Crest. That's pretty useful for like Aether penalty spell if you want to go for that, but other than that, it's not the best. Oh, there is the kitty. And the crab at the same time. Monka. But yeah, I mean, as long as we have Ascension up, we are basically unkillable as long as we're spinning. Because the absorption and the lifesteal is gonna help us out a lot. Holy shit, the rocks hit me here. You wanna make sure to not get hit by those rocks. Otherwise you can be dead pretty quickly. You don't have like a tanky character. Alright, red crab down, and we actually have Kubacabra here right after the red crab as well. So we want to kill him as well, obviously. But also we kind of don't want to stand inside the poison of these plants because they can like be a little bit annoying, you know. So let's pull him over here. There we go. Try to not stand inside of his pools too much. Spin while moving, so that's pretty nice. Also, whenever Ascension is down, you can use the Mark of Torment to like compensate not having Ascension up. Bit as well. Yeah, there we go. It's actually a formidable of Vitality. That's a pretty good one. This one has physical resistance on it and like a bunch of HP. It's a pretty good one. Gargabol, here we go. So you want to make sure to keep Ascension for the second phase actually. Try to make the first phase without Ascension. Should move out of the volcanoes though. Alright, there we go. As you can see, like without Ascension, you do take quite some damage, so you can either choose to know what you're doing and only like take one hit and then move out again. Or you can use Mark of Torment, obviously, to prevent the burst from happening to you. And as you can see, like the kill speed on like Gargabol, for example, is a little bit slower than on my Chaos Eye of Reckoning build. Like the Chaos Eye of Reckoning build is able to kill the second phase with Ascension up before he spawns even the first volcano. So on this character you have to move out of the volcanoes once he spawns them. But I mean, for that we have the Virus Might to like disengage, basically. And yeah, I mean, comparing this build overall to the Chaos Eye of Reckoning build, I would say this guy has a little bit less damage and like a little bit less physical resistance because we're not using the Oathkeeper spell of the Rig. So physical resistance is actually kind of lowish on this character. That said, we have more absorption through Mark of Torment. We have a little bit higher HP pool. And we have more attack speed, so our lifesteal from Eye of Reckoning, even though it's a little bit lower actually than the Chaos one as well, it's more consistent, and also like the wind up, like you can start spinning and stop spinning way faster than on the Chaos build. So it's a little bit more smooth playing, but overall I would say it's a little bit weaker. But I mean, That's, in my opinion, like the strongest how you can make Aether Eye of Reckoning work. And if you enjoy the playstyle, if you enjoy like a good meme build, I mean, go ahead and play this build, try this build out, and praise the sun. Yeah, that's gonna be it for me for this video. Thank you very much everyone for watching. Feel free to like, comment, share this video if you like this content, and also check out my other build guide videos, so like build highlight videos. There will be different links down below, or like some corners here in the video. And yeah, also like check out the Grim Tools link, it will be down below as well. Check out my stream if you haven't checked it out yet. And yeah, hope to see you again sometime. Take care, and until next time.